back for racing here at Brainerd International Raceway. It is the Royal Enfield Build, Train, Race program. We've waited for this since the program was announced back in December that it was going to be a road racing program for this year. All of these 7 contestants were delivered a Continental GT 650. Hi, I'm Jamie Howe, joined in the booth by Bree Poland, the brand ambassador globally for the Continental GT platform. You selected all of these 7 women through hundreds of applicants, and now they get to hit the racetrack for the first time.
I'm extremely excited and nervous, and I know, lots of anticipation from sponsors and, race fans and the MotoAmerica series. So it's race day. It's finally here. Like, it's finally happening.
It's finally here. And if you haven't been joining us all weekend long, the whole premise around this program was that these are 7 women who have no road race experience, but they had an interest in learning to build a motorcycle, training on a motorcycle, and then eventually racing the motorcycle. It will be a 3-part race series for the season, starting here this weekend, the first race at Brainerd. 2 weeks time, we'll have their second race in Pittsburgh, and then at the end of the season at Barber. Yeah,
I'm really excited to be at all 3 of those tracks. We worked with MotoAmerica and really tried to figure out the best tracks for these women to race in the series this year. So I'm excited.
So we will be calling all of the action from up here in the booth, but joining us down on pit lane is Hannah Lopa.
Jamie, it is a beautiful day. The weather is really showing off for these women today. I just checked in with some of them before the race. They're feeling definitely some nerves, some excitement all around to grid up for the very first time for their very first race of the season. This is a big step outside so many of their comfort zones, but they're handling it with grace. And they just rolled by me here a minute ago, and it was just really exciting. There's a lot of great energy down here in the pit, so I think we're going to see some good racing out there today.
And you can see them waving to the fans as they're coming around to take what will be their very first start. That was their sighting lap, so we still have one more lap to go. And while we wait for that, a couple of the riders, we've had a chance to learn some more about how they ended up here in this program. Starting third today will be Alyssa Bridges, and here's how she ended up.
My name is Alyssa Bridges, and I'm from Dana Point in Southern California. When I'm not riding motorcycles, I'm usually shooting content about motorcycles. I'm a professional videographer and photographer. I do work in the motorcycle industry at Senna, and so I guess you could say I get paid to ride motorcycles and make content about them. When I was younger, I really wanted to be a pilot, but as I got older, I realized I'm actually kind of afraid of heights, so I think motorcycling has kind of helped fill that. I've been riding on the street for about 5 years or so now. I was following last year's 2020 Build Train Race program where they took the women and taught them how to do flat track, and I was super interested in it. In fact, when Johnny Lewis and the Royal Enfield Slide School were out in Southern California, I got some of my teammates at work together and we went out and did the school. When I saw that this year for the 2021 they were going to do road racing, I was like, I have to do this. I don't even think I finished reading the whole details before I was already clicking the submit. I'm really excited that Melissa Paris is our mentor. She's done so much with her own personal career in road racing and even just for women in the sport in general. To have her as our mentor and the rest of the Royal Enfield team with us, it's just an amazing opportunity. I think the part that I'm most excited for is the training and learning how to road race properly and learning from Melissa. I think the part that I'm most nervous for is the build. And I'm building it here in my humble garage shared with roommates because as much as there's a bike lift and things at the office, I want to learn everything that I can about it. And even if it's midnight and I'm out here wrenching on it, at least I'm home. So it's going to be my homemade bike right here. I've done my maintenance and simple modifications to my motorcycles, but for this, there are some big pieces that I can just feel the clock ticking on this build as we need to have it done in a certain amount of time. My vision for the bike is to have it look fierce. I want this thing to look fast even when it's sitting still, but performance-wise, be ready to go out there and compete.
And we are now back to the live track action. There is Alyssa Bridges on that number 30 that we just heard from. This is their final lap before they will go get ready for their very first start. And Alyssa is going to line up in the 3rd position. She had been running 2nd all weekend behind CJ Lukash, and then she lost a little bit of time during the qualifying session. Here's a look at how they are going to line up. It will be CJ Lukash who's going to start from that pole position, which we were expecting, Brie. She has motocross experience.
You know, she does come from a professional racing background, and you do see it a little bit easier from a motocrosser transitioning to another form of motorsport. So we weren't surprised by this.
Becky Goebel, though, starting in 2nd. That was a bit of a surprise. She wasn't here for the test day, and she put it together.
You know, it's funny, when she qualified 2nd, she didn't even realize it, and she didn't know how she qualified 2nd. So we had to sit with her after the qualification and say, this is why you qualified 2nd.
And you saw how the rest of the women will line up. Michaela Trumbull in 4th, Trisha Dahl, the local Minnesota rider, lining up in 5th, Kayla Teisler in 6th, and Scarlett Grosenlohorst in 7th. And now, Brie, this is the moment I know you've been waiting for. It is time to go racing. See everybody hit their marks. We did see them take some practice starts at the end of qualifying yesterday. Visors are down. Will be an 8-lap race once they take the lights.
You know, great start by everybody.
They all made it.
They all did. Fantastic. Mama Bear's proud.
I saw you holding your breath.
I was a little silent for a moment. You know, this is the first time they've ever done an official race start. You know, they've practiced starts maybe here and there, but it was really nice to see them all get off the grid.
Trisha Dahl got a great start. She started 4th, and she's already made her way up to 3rd. Got around Alyssa Bridges.
I'm really interested to see how this plays out. You know, everyone was comparing lap times and, you know, talking to each other, and I wouldn't have anticipated this going into the first couple turns.
They were a little nervous about having to pass in all of the practice sessions, and I guess in the track day sessions also. They were concerned about having to ride alongside each other and have to make those moves. But as the weekends progressed, we have seen them get more comfortable in the side-by-side riding.
Yeah, in morning warm-up, I went and stood in turn 12, and I was just watching them. And Alyssa and Trisha were definitely going back and forth with each other. There is a lot more confidence, you know, more time on the track, more time riding with each other. You know, I anticipate by the end of this season or this series with them this year, there's going to be a lot of mix-ups.
Michaela Trumbull had a good start also. She's up into 4th right now after starting in the 5th position. It's been a good solid lap for her. I wonder what happened to Alyssa.
I can't see her out there.
So they're all coming around for this first lap. One of the things that Alyssa's said to me this morning, she actually walked up to the top of our tower. Now it looks like she's getting her feet back underneath her there as she looks underneath Michaela Trumbull to try and get around her. She actually watched a bunch of lines and all of the different sessions that were going on this morning because she felt like she still had a lot to learn.
You know, they all have a lot to learn, and I know they put a lot of pressure on themselves. We're not putting pressure on them. You know, this is the first race ever. I hope at the end of it, they all, you know, take away some key learnings and just apply it to the next time they're out there on the track.
You mentioned talking to Becky Goebel after qualifying and explaining how everything shook out the way that it did. Were there any other surprises? I mean, I was over there when the riders got back from qualifying, and it's so interesting to me that they really didn't know how they had stacked up.
You know, again, it's like all of it's a learning process. They don't necessarily know where to go to check. You know, we do remind them, but there's so many things going on during this race weekend that are all new to them. And then, you know, just their minds are going crazy. They have people blowing up their phones. You know, Becky last night had people finding out in California that she qualified 2nd, so her phone was going off at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I think they're going to take everything that they did this weekend, probably go over in their mind, you know, a million times over, and they'll be much better prepared going into, you know, the Pitt International race.
And so much of that learning process that you've talked about comes from Alyssa Paris, is the mentor for all 7 of these women. I saw Josh Hayes, her husband, over talking to him a little bit yesterday. And right now, Hannah is down on pit lane with Melissa. Hannah?
Melissa's trying to sneak some peeks over at this screen while we were waiting over here, but you know, what has the experience been like this season so far with all of these women? What were your expectations, and did these women meet them?
I mean, to be completely honest with you, they've exceeded my expectations. The first day of training, they like blew me away, because I didn't give them enough credit. They're all really motivated, and especially on track, they're doing a great job, and they're picking it up really quickly.
Now, having such a vast experience yourself in racing, what are these women feeling out there on the track right now?
It's funny because I was talking to a couple of them before the race, and they were like, I feel fine when I'm on the track, but right now I'm sick. I'm so nervous, and like, what should I do about that? And I was like, well, get used to it. That's racing. Like the hour before a race is miserable, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Just get comfortable being uncomfortable. You know, what are some of the other challenges that the women have gone through leading up to this weekend?
I mean, as people know, it's build, train, race. So they're not just out there racing for the first time. They're racing on bikes that they built. And it was a pretty lengthy process trying to turn these in from a street bike into a racetrack-worthy machine. And they all had to learn quite a lot of new skills and learn how to source parts and put them on and make sure that everything was done correctly. And so it's been a really long process. And I think people are really just seeing like the culmination of it all.
What do you think the biggest takeaway for these women will be after this experience is all said and done?
I think each one of them is taking something different from it. One of them was commenting the other day she had to pull a fork leg off, and her husband was watching, and he was like, when did you learn how to do that? Like, that's amazing. And another one was saying, after what I did on the track, I feel like in my professional life, I'm not going to be so afraid of things anymore. Like, I feel fearless now. So I think each one of them is going to have a really unique takeaway and something that they've learned from it.
It's definitely confidence inspiring. I know as a novice myself, it's something that's really commendable for me to see and watch, and it almost makes me want to get out there. What about you? Do you have any plans to try this again in the future?
Yeah, you know, I think this is a program we want to continue with. I think we're seeing some success from it, and, you know, I don't see any reason we can't put you on one of them.
Only if you grid up next to me.
It's a deal. All
right, thanks, Melissa.
No worries.
I think those are some great points that Melissa brought up, Bree, that everybody's going to take something different away from it. CJ Lakosh, this was an opportunity for her to get back on a bike. We talked about she was a professional motocross rider, but now she's a high school health teacher and baseball coach and basketball coach and a different part of her life. But she's going to take all of these lessons that she's been able to learn through this program back to California with her.
She is, and she's the oldest one in our program, so she'll be 40 this December, but she has a lot of fire left in her, and when the opportunity came up, she's like, I'm not going to, miss out on this.
And she did just put down her quickest lap, that last lap by a 1:59.8, so she's getting close to where she was in qualifying. Again, her fastest lap of the race this past one, which is pretty amazing when you think about what she's been through. So we expected her to perform well, but this was in the second practice session earlier this weekend. She had this big moment. You see her go off. She held on to the bars, went over the top of the bike before finally landing on her back. And that was the scary moment. You were with her when she was being examined by all of the medical staff.
The even scarier thing is you and I were up here and we didn't even know it happened, and I went down there to have a conversation with the ladies to see how practice went, and Michaela was so excited about her, her lap times, and then she said, I feel really bad for CJ, and I was like, why? And she's like, she crashed. And CJ's not the type of person to tell us that she's in pain, and I just looked at her and I said, let's go talk to Dr. Jim, and then he recommended her going to the hospital, and they cleared her. So she's able to get out there and race. She is a little bit sore, but rubbin's racing, I guess.
But when you think about professionals, it's easy for professionals to come back out when they're injured. It's their job. It's what they do. For these 7 women, this is a labor of love. This is not how they make their living. As we look at Becky Goebel right now, I mentioned the fact that she wasn't here for the test day on Thursday. She had a really tough go in the first practice session, the first official practice session. She was black flagged for missing the chicane 4 times. She really only got 1 actual lap, but she was able to pull herself together and put together some lap times, and now she's holding her own out there.
She has, again, surprised me through every step of this program, from the build. Her build was one of the only builds that was perfect and ready to go for the first day of training at Groton. And then, again, I wouldn't have expected that. She has never really wrenched on a motorcycle before. She comes from riding a chopper. She doesn't even know what a front brake is. And here she is, in second place, qualified second. It's beautiful to see. And I think that's, again, the point of the program is you can take women from any aspect or any walks of life, and with the right training, you know, the right sponsors, the right people behind you, you can become a road racer. And I mean, you could have a better poster child for that right now.
And right behind Becky Goebel is Trisha Dahl in the number 144. You see Alyssa looking around right now. The two of these two women in practice were going back and forth a little bit, realizing where Alyssa was better on the front half of the track, Trisha was better on the second half of the track, and they were really learning from each other, comparing their notes. And it looks to me like we might get some action here with 4 laps remaining in this 8-lap race. But the reason Trisha wanted to join this program was because she wanted to get outside of her comfort zone. And now we see Alyssa Bridges. She did looks like she's going to make it stick as we go into this next corner.
Ooh, she anticipated that a little bit. Yeah, she.
With more on Alyssa, she looks again. Let's get down to Hannah Lopa.
Well, you've got Kayla Bridges back and forth doing a great job, and I talked to her before the race. She said they were making really big changes every time she rode the bike. Something was significantly different or new, so that was a big challenge, but she's made consistent progress every session. Lap times were getting quicker consistently, and for her, that was really important to just be able to see a positive swing in things. You know, in practice, she got 11 laps in or so she was really trying to prepare for an 8-lap race. This is pretty long for these women who've never raced before, but she wants to be able to push to the end and finish really strong.
So look at Alyssa Bridges has now moved back just a little bit. That gap is at 0.7 of a second. It was closed down to about 0.2 seconds as these two are just going back and forth. But they're still learning, Bree. This is, I mean, we've talked about all the track time that they have been able to have this weekend, but this is still such a new experience.
I mean, they've probably had 7 days total on a road race track, you know, and I think, again, so yesterday I went after the second practice and Michaela was in the trailer and she was crying. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, I'm not doing good. I'm horrible. And I'm like, well, why do you say that? You just shaved a couple seconds off your time. She's like, I can do better. I'm like, well, don't cry about it. Channel that and push it, so when you're in warm-up or qualifying or whatever it is, you go out there and you use that and, you know, focus on where you could get better and how you could use the track a little bit more. And I know Josh came over and talked to her for, you know, about 45 minutes yesterday, and she talked through some of her, you know, pain points on the track. And, you know, she looked really great out there this morning in morning warm-up. She went the fastest that she has all weekend. And again, it's more track time, learning the motorcycle, you know, learning how to road race, learning how to race with competitors. There's so many variables going on, and I'm proud of every single one of them.
Bree, and continuing with Michaela, you know, she said even though learning the track is tough, she's improving her knowledge every single session. She is having a good time overall despite some of the struggles. The biggest challenge for her is really brake control and throttle control and just being smooth between those transitions. But at Road America, she actually got to do a 2-seat ride with Chris Ulrich, and it helped her a lot just to see the smoothness and to see where he brakes in certain areas of the track and how hard he really is on the brakes and how much fitness is required there. So that was really eye-opening for her, and she definitely tried to carry some of what she learned just from being a passenger on the back of that motorcycle over to her own riding here this weekend.
Yeah, and she was actually one of the lucky ones that got two-up rides. I think she did cartwheels once she got off the back of Chris Ulrich's bike. And it was, you know, Road Racing World is a really good partner of ours. They've supported, you know, our series from the launch of Flat Track last year to Road Racing. They, you know, get all the exclusives. John Ulrich, Dave Schwartz, all of them have just welcomed us. They did a racetrack trailer introduction, you know, when we were at Road America. The women got to see how a proper, you know, motorcycle team runs and functions, and explained like all the components that they actually have in a semi. So yeah, and I think the girls want 2-up rides every weekend though.
I think we all do. Yeah. I've never been on one.
You have not?
I have not. As we look at 52
it's life-changing.
Kayla Teisler, yeah, I need to do that at some point in time. Her bike, she said, is the grooviest bike that MotoAmerica has ever seen. And I know it's not the original design that was approved by Royal Enfield for the competition, but it matches her leather. She loves it. It looks great. The fans have been responsive to it, and it photographs well.
You know, something that she said to me, and I didn't even think about it, every time or every different weekend that she's been on this motorcycle, it's a different bike. So she started with a completely different front end. There are some other things that she's changed.
She had big brake problems this weekend.
She did, and then we changed it. So she literally has not had 2 full days on any motorcycle that's the same components. So seeing her running 206 on a motorcycle that she really doesn't know,
And we look at Scarlett Grossland-Horst in the 7th position right now. She had the least amount of track experience coming into this race weekend. She was only able to make 2 of the training sessions, I believe.
Well, we only had 2 official training sessions, and then we did an option after Groton. We found out there was another track day with Sport Bike Track Time, and so only 3 of the women were able to stay. So actually, Scarlett, Kayla, Becky, and Trisha had the same amount of track time, and then we had Michaela, Alyssa, and CJ that had those 2 extra days.
And they've been able to keep the bikes upright. Nobody's had any big issues today in morning warm-up. Everybody did, as you said earlier, they went out to make sure the grass was nicely mowed, but found the track limits, and we've had a pretty clean race, especially for CJ Lukash. You look at white flags out right now, 1:57.8. So she has now gone, this is the quickest that she's gone all weekend. She's been able to put it together here in the race. We are on our final lap of this 8-lap first race of the season. What are your thoughts, Bree, as you watch CJ go around on her last lap?
It's beautiful to watch her ride a motorcycle. Everyone's come down and complimented her on her riding. She's, you know, she gets it. She's great on a motorcycle. She gets how the body moves. She knows that she should be looking into the next turn. And it's hard to coach someone or have, like Melissa and I were talking about, is CJ seems to get it. We do want her to ask, you know, like questions or whatever, because we want to like continue the growth process. But it's fantastic watching her race motorcycles.
I know she's a big Roger Hayden fan, and I was up here earlier this weekend, and Roger and I were talking about the program, and he said, who's on that white bike, that 77? And I said, that's CJ, and he said, she's good.
Yeah, so actually, I think it was before qualifying yesterday, Roger was still in here in the booth, and I was like, hey, Raj, can you please just go introduce yourself to CJ, because she's a really big fan of the Hayden family. And he came down there, and she was just dumbfounded, and she like shed so many tears afterwards. She's actually wearing a Nikki Hayden shirt under her leathers right now. So Roger coming down, I think he wished her good luck on Instagram, and like her mind is just like, I think she's doing it for number 69 this weekend.
And despite all of the pain that she was in this morning, you see she looks comfortable. She looks comfortable in this final lap of the race. He's extended a 27-second gap, so you watch her go by. Just about to finish this last lap. On the right hand of the screen, you've got 3rd, 4th, and 5th, all right there. Trisha, Alyssa, and Michaela have all been able to stay together, but it will be CJ Lukash who has a substantial lead as she heads towards the checker flag. And history has been made. The very first Royal Enfield Build Train Race program winner will be CJ Lukash. And here comes 2nd place Becky Goebel. After all of the struggles that she went through to find the pace out on the racetrack, she's been able to hold on to it. She had a great start. She never let her eyes off of the prize, and she's going to take the bike home, take the checkered flag in that 2nd place that she started from. And Trisha Dahl looked so forward to this race. Being from Minnesota, she grew up just less than an hour from the race. She's been here as a fan. She has friends. She has family members. And she's going to round out our podium in the 3rd place. Right behind her, Alyssa Bridges on that number 30. Michaela Trumbull in 4th. They all stayed together. Nobody got too nervous.
No, they didn't. Again, it's more track time, learning how to race, you know, and ride against each other. It could have been Trisha, it could have been Alyssa, it could have been Michaela in that 3rd place position. I'm happy with whoever it was.
As we watched Kayla Teisler come to the checkered flag herself, crossing the line, completing her very first race. All of these women can pat themselves on the back because this was the part of the program that they were most nervous about. The bikes were already built. They accomplished that. They went through all of the training sessions, all of the mentor sessions with Melissa Paris and Josh Hayes, and sitting down and learning everything they could, but then they were nervous about this race. And now the race is almost complete as Scarlett Grossland-Horst takes the checkered flag. All 7 of them made it.
All 7 of them had a great start. They had a great start. They had a great race. There were some really good battles in between, and they all finished the race. So Royal Enfield is extremely proud of the efforts from every single one of those women.
This was your baby product, Bree. You dreamed about this. You put it all together. You made sure that everybody had everything they needed to succeed. And we take a look back at how it all unfolded. Started with this clean start.
It was a beautiful start.
It was the one part of it that they had the least amount of practice with. but they were all able to make it through those first couple of corners.
And I think it was me making them nervous about the starts. You know, like it was a grid and go. It's not the normal starts. They've been watching other starts all weekend, but it wasn't the same start process as what we were doing. But now they got it.
And Becky Goebel was so nervous. She said her anxiety was through the roof. It was a personal experiment on how she was going to handle race day, but she accomplished everything she needed to. CJ Lukash taking the very first checkered flag for the BTR road race program. Look at her, hands up. She can't believe it.
I can imagine the tears flowing under that visor right now. I love to see that enthusiasm.
So first race weekend, we talked about it. It was a 3-race weekend program. First one's now in the book. You're the program manager. What do you want to do next time around?
Next season?
No, next race.
Next race? Be better prepared. So our crew chief, Kyle Dahl, we talked about it. We definitely have to make sure we have ample amount of spares. I mean, that's the one thing that, like, luckily we only had 2 issues where we had to replace parts, but now we have to replenish that and make sure that we have those in the future. Oh, there's CJ.
She's made her way down to the podium area. You see Hannah Lopez standing by. We'll talk to her in just a couple of moments, but as you see all the fan interaction, that's been a big part of this. You have a great spot over in the paddock where everybody has to walk by all the foot traffic. What has the reception from the MotoAmerica fan base been like this weekend?
Yeah, a couple of people from MotoAmerica came up to me this weekend. They're like, you have the most packed paddock area in all of the MotoAmerica paddock this weekend. And, all the women have, their individual fans, but there's people that didn't even know that these women were racing, and they're coming over, they're talking to them, they're talking about the builds. I mean, when the girls haven't been on the track, they're usually talking to the fans out there and asking questions. There's Becky.
You see them all getting into position. This is also something they've never done before. They've never experienced a podium celebration before. And you could see, you mentioned the tears that you could imagine in CJ's helmet. She was standing off to the side, looking very reflective for just a couple moments. You hear the scream inside of the helmet. I love it.
She did, but as a running joke, we were actually going to tell MotoAmerica that we'd rather have men holding umbrellas and switch it around. So take note, guys. I love the excitement.
I imagine with Trisha being over there, all of her friends and family that we mentioned being here. There's Melissa Paris. Still, look, just so much excitement, the camaraderie amongst this program. And that was another thing that all 7 of them really talked about, was that, yes, it is a race, it is a competition, but they all feel like they're a team. And that's something that you really built around them.
Yeah, and I want them to feel like they are a team and they're not just, competitors all the time. And, we spend time talking about non-race stuff. We make sure that everyone feels supported and they support each other. And it's, it's a little family, but when the helmet goes on, things change.
I'm ready. Things change indeed, but they've all enjoyed the experience so far this weekend. Nobody had anything bad to say about anybody else. It's been so fun to watch, and now we are ready to send it down to Victory Lane with Hannah Lopa. Hannah?
I'm here with today's race winner, the first ever for the Royal Enfield Build Train Race program, CJ Lukash. How are you feeling right now?
Pumped. I don't even have words. I don't have words. I'm so excited.
Now, after yesterday, you had a bit of a get-off. Did that kind of play on your nerves at all today for this race?
It did a little bit during that warm-up we had, but, I just got to ride my own race and know that, I can trust what I know how to do, so not too bad.
Is there anything that you learned here this weekend, especially during this race, that you can kind of take with you to utilize to improve upon this performance for the next round?
Absolutely. Learning how the suspension works and even just, more patience and breathing, that you can take that, yeah.
Well, congratulations to our today's race winner, CJ Lukash. Let's make our way over to second place today and check in with her. Again, this is a first for all of you. First time gridding up, first time making your way down here to Victory Lane. Becky Goebel, tell us about your race.
I finally know what road racing is, I think. I learned. Thank you to the Royal Enfield team. Thank you for Melissa Paris for teaching me how to do this. Thank you, Bree, for putting this all together, and MotoAmerica for having us. Thanks to all the sponsors, and that was so fun. Hell yeah!
What would you say was the best part of that race for you today?
Just being out there, you feel alone and just in your head, and at one point I was just like, whoa! And it was awesome.
Well, we love that energy. Congratulations, Becky Goebel, on second place today. Fantastic job. We're going to make our way over here to round out the podium. We've got Trisha Dahl taking third place for us today. Now, Trisha, you had some pressure on you because you were kind of close to that group of girls. How did you manage to pull off this podium and keep those girls behind you?
I was just trying to stay consistent, keep my lines, defense. I was able to get a good start, and I just went with it. And I just had Melissa in my head, just stay consistent.
That's definitely the key here. What was the most important takeaway for you from this race?
The most important takeaway was body position. Like, hang off the bike, trust the tires, and just keep your lines.
And what are you looking forward to the most for the next round here?
I'm looking forward to get faster and actually be able to see CJ.
I think that's a fair goal. Our hometown girl here, Trisha Dahl, congratulations to all three of our Royal Enfield podium finishers. This is a huge accomplishment. You should all be very proud.
I love all of the energy down there with the celebration. You could hear the fans behind him as we take one more look at Trisha Dahl, the local rider from Montrose, Minnesota. You heard her family cheering him on. Bree, thank you for joining us here this weekend. What is the one takeaway that you have from how it all unfolded?
Women can do anything.
That's pretty awesome. It's such a great thing to see. A fantastic program. Can't wait to see how the next two rounds unfold. They were all thinking, they were insightful. They know what they need to work on as we move forward. They've now built the bikes, they've trained the bikes, and they can now say that they have raced the bikes as well.
And now they're going to progress each and every weekend.
I'm going to stay with them just to watch as they celebrate. Just a reminder, if you're here at the racetrack coming up at the top of the hour, we will have the second Super Sport race of the weekend. It was a great battle yesterday between Sean Dillon Kelly, Richie Escalante. We'll see what they have. But right now, all eyes are on the Royal Enfield Build Train Race women as they take their steps on the podium for the very first time.
They look great up there.
And their Dunlop hats. Dunlop was a huge supporter of this program also. They gave them a tire that really lasted through the whole weekend.
Yeah, no, Dunlop keeps upping their support. They've been over, they've checked with each and every one of the ladies. They actually got new tires put on this morning. That wasn't what was in the plan, and they said, you know, I think we want to get them new tires out there for Sunday. So we couldn't have done it without Dunlop.
The hoisting of the trophy is, you think about all of the new things that they've been through. Look at, you see Trisha's face in the third place behind. You can see they're all just soaking it in.
They are, and those are beautiful trophies.
The Royal Enfield support here this weekend. It's been something that you've thought about for, what'd you say, 2 years this program has been?
I mean, the idea of having an all-female racing program has been around for 20 years in my head. And then, you know, Melissa and I have been talking about it for 15, 16 years. And, you know, the road racing thing, I wanted to start with flat track. It's a little bit easier to build a stock bike into a flat track bike. And then when we got that kind of nailed down, Melissa's like, okay, can we please go road racing now? And here it is. This is Melissa, mine, and all of our sponsors' baby. And it looks fantastic.
It does. It was a great showing, a great first weekend. Just the support from everybody, from the fans. Thank you to everybody at the racetrack for the support of this program, everybody watching online. Just another reminder, Super Sport will be up next at the top of the hour on MotoAmerica Live Plus, also here at the racetrack. Bree Poland, thank you for joining us this weekend, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for having me on.